But again, nothing will stop us from sharing the Janome love. So that's wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. So yes, I see that it is 1 o'clock, so I am going to get started. So my name is Michael Smith. I'm the National Consumer Education Manager of Janome Canada. And I'm just going to say hello to everyone. Fabulous. Yes. So yes, and I'm back for another Janome's Magical Machine Mystery Tour. So, ooh, what machine will it be? Well, all secrets will be revealed. I will flip around and ooh, here we go for another fabulous Janome's Magical Machine Mystery Tour. Tanya's beautiful artwork as always. I love it. So, ooh, Sarah, just in time. Hello for the fabulous reveal. Ooh. Hey, that doesn't look like a sewing machine that we recognize, but I love to point out, look at that beautiful cast aluminum base. Oh, and Grandma Craw, perfect timing. The cast aluminum base is what all Janome machines start out as. Now, they don't necessarily all start out with this exact skeleton, but all of them, be it a serger, being our cover hem machine, long arm quilting machine, embroidery machine, everything. It doesn't matter if it's top of the line or entry level. They all are this solid cast aluminum base, and then all the pretty pieces get added to it afterward. So this is why Janome machines are now bouncing all over the table everywhere. You know, they're very sturdy, and certainly why they last and hold their value. Oh, hello. So, yes, for our Janome's Magical Machine for today, again, started out as a cast aluminum base like this, and then, boom, it is the beautiful Janome Sewist 740 DC. Now, I must admit, I'm not exactly certain what DC stands for. I think it may refer to the kind of motor that is in the machine, but I really must ask either our technician, Mark, who seems to know everything, or certainly I'll ask my big bosses exactly what that DC is. Oh, Gordon Madeline, hello. But yes, 740 stands for it's a 7mm machine, so that might be for the 7. And then 40, there are 40 stitches. Oh, so be it, Clothier. Hello, hello. So, yes, now there are several Sewist machines in the line. In fact, on a previous Janome's Magical Machine Mystery Tour, I demoed the 725 Sewist machine. So you can go back to the previous Janome HQ Magical Machine Mystery Tour, either on the IGTV playlist that's here on the Janome HQ Instagram page, or you can go to the Janome HQ YouTube channel, and I've got several playlists there, including one that is Magical Machine Mystery Tour, so you can go back to see that Sewist 725 presentation there. That was an all-mechanical machine. Oh, Census Leia, hello. The 725 was a mechanical machine, meaning that it had knobs that you had to turn, whereas this beautiful Janome 740 Sewist DC, it is electronic. So let's say you maybe have a entry-level machine, but now you're ready to upgrade to something perhaps a little bit bigger. You've got a little bit more throat space here. Maybe you would like some electronic features, but you don't want to get into too many bells and whistles. You don't want to get into too much automation. So the Sewist 740 is a great machine. It does offer you some of these electronic controls like stop start button, so you don't even need the foot pedal, so that's great. We've got reverse and our lock stitch, so a lot of people like that you can start and end your seams either with a back stitch or just the lock stitch, so several little stitches in place. So that's great, just with a touch of a button here. Needle up, down, I love, that's very convenient. Then we've got a speed control as well. So this machine would be great if you are, oh, Cheryl's here. Hello, Cheryl, great to see you. So if you are again, new sewist, or you're teaching perhaps like a younger child to sew, again, the speed control is always good to have, because then perhaps if they're a little intimidated by the speed, you can slow it down. Or let's say you're doing some stitching around some applique and you want to be very precise, or even stitching the decorative stitches. You know, even with my big fancy top of the line machine, I always slow the speed down when stitching my decorative stitches. I find they just form a little bit better. Some of them are so elaborate, so you just give it a little bit more time to form you know, optimally, so reducing the speed helps. And then yes, for our touchscreen here, I love that we can adjust not only the various stitches as indicated by the big numbers here, but they even tell us our presser foot. Up here it says A, which is just our standard zigzag foot. But then here we can adjust the stitch width with this plus or minus button, and then we can adjust the stitch length with this plus or minus button. So again, how easy is that? Just with a couple of you know, touches of the button, and I can adjust however I wish. Now I love this big like keypad here. These buttons are really big, and again, I think that's great for maybe little fingers. You know, they can get a big bullseye here, and you can see like even the stitch themselves, there's like a little circular button right underneath it that's slightly raised, so it's really good that you know exactly that yes, that's the button you're going to push. So again, great for a new sewist, a younger sewist, or let's say you're slightly older and your grip just isn't what it is. You know, sometimes I get some numbness in my hands. So then I like having these like big buttons to push. Then it's nothing too delicate, so I don't need to worry about my hands, you know, cramping up if I'm gripping on something too small. So I really like this. And I love how with these 40 stitches, they are all numbered here from 1 to 20, so easy quick select. If I have my regular standard straight stitch here, number 1, but then, oh, I want a zigzag, number 8, boom, 1 touch of my button. Oh, I want a buttonhole, boom, 1 touch of the button, there's my buttonhole. It's stitch number 19. It's telling me the R foot, the automatic buttonhole foot that comes with the machine, as indicated up on my LCD screen here. It's reminding me to pull down that buttonhole lever that often people forget about, so, and then they wonder, why doesn't it work? That buttonhole lever. So again, isn't it wonderful that the machine has some capabilities to do a little thinking for you? So it reminds you, hey, move down that buttonhole lever, and then again, this is our stitch width and stitch length. So 1 touch of the button and boom, one of your decorative stitches there, boom, selected. But oh, that's 1 to 20. What about the other 20 stitches? Since this Sewist 740 has 40 stitches. Well, look at this cute little tab here. You can just see the end of it. It says 21 to 40, and you pull this out. Isn't that ingenious? I absolutely love this. I think it's so adorable. And again, it's telling me the stitch numbers and what foot is indicated up at the top here. It's telling me what foot we need to use for what stitch, so it's already telling you. Now, yes, there is an instructional DVD that I recommend everyone watch, and yes, there is an instruction book that I recommend everybody read. So your instruction manual is going to tell you about all of these features, but isn't that great? Again, you get your machine right out of the box and you want to stitch, oh, let's say stitch number 21, again, another one of our buttonhole stitches. So then I can select up here to then scroll up to 21. There we go. Or let's say I want stitch number 40. I would first hit on the keypad 20, so it's quick select. And then again, we just quickly scan up here to 40. Boom, there we go. So very quick, easy adjustments. And again, I love that little card. It's so beautiful. You know, Janome is Japanese, so they're very good at you know, fitting everything into very tight spaces. So they're, I love the design of it all. And then you see the beautiful accent color up here on the faceplate. So again, very beautiful machine, and it's got some great features to it. So let's just take a quick little tour of the machine here, as usual, with the horizontal spool pin here, carrying handle. This machine is very lightweight too, so this is another good feature of the machine. If you would like a secondary machine, let's say you've got a bigger, more fancy machine at home, but once our COVID restrictions lessen and we can actually start traveling and maybe going into, a store for some classes, and the Sewist 740 would be a great machine, again, to travel with, very lightweight. Up here at the top, we've got our control for the foot pressure, so we can lessen or increase the foot pressure up here with that dial. And then, yes, we have a 7mm wide opening in our patented needle plate here. And you can see there's lots of indicator marks here to help you that, oh yes, there is a 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch here indicated on the needle plate, so you can line up for your perfect 1/4 inch piecing. Or if you're, again, a garment sewer that has traditional 5/8 inch seam allowances, there's a mark there on the needle plate itself and the bobbin cover, and more of the needle plate up here. So the patented needle plate, and again, the instruction manual goes over what all of these lines are for. But it's really good to have very convenient features. This we refer to as the easy set model. So then we've got our bobbin cover, and then as we put in our bobbin, then it wraps around this little thread guide, and there's a little thread cutter here. So we refer to this configuration as the easy set model. And why that is important of when you go to your fabulous Janome dealer and say, oh, you want things like the fabulous quilt binder attachment. This is the one. There are several different configurations of this base plate. The binder itself is the same for all, but the base plate is what's most important, because this little piece here is your bobbin cover. It's the same shape and the same size. So when you get this optional accessory, for example, you need to know, oh, do you have an easy set model? Which we do in our Sewist 740. So I would take the bobbin cover out, and that snaps into place and attaches to the bed of the machine, and away we go to use the quilt binder. So this is the same, the easy set model that I use in my top of the line Continental M7, and I use it in my Memorycraft 15,000 quilt maker, and we can use it in our Sewist 740. So how great is that? So also this machine has a free arm, so there, if we're doing, again, cuffs and leggings and such, then we can wrap around the free arm. So that's a great feature. Now our little accessory box here also has some storage, and you'll see, oh yes, there's that automatic buttonhole foot there, which is R. Now I demonstrated the automatic buttonhole foot and buttonholes in general in the B episode of the A to Z with Janome series that you can watch again at the Janome HQ YouTube channel. Now this conveniently just fits in so perfectly right in that spot, like boom. I love Janome thinks of everything. So this is your secondary spool pin. Now sometimes they are vertical, but this one is horizontal. So this just fits. There's a little hole up at the top of the machine, so this just fits in there. So when you want to wind a bobbin, but you don't want to unthread your needle, then you can put this spool pin on to wind your bobbin. So that's great. Or if you're going to use a twin needle, then again, you've got 2 spools of thread. So that's great. So that's very handy to have. Or this little hole up here, you can get one of those cute little pin cushions that will just fit in there. They're often covered in polka dot fabric, so that would be cute to add up there. Down again in your little accessory case, though, you'll see, oh, there are spots for some fabulous Janome J bobbins that come with your machine. But speaking of bobbins, were you aware Ooh, let's spin around here. We've got so much, as usual, so much on my table to show you. Speaking of extra bobbins, oh yes, you know, Janome will be 100 years this year. So we have some special anniversary 100-year Janome bobbins in a case of 25. So you can get these from your Janome dealer. Or, you know, we've often, for many, many years, have had the blue, or then with the little butterflies, or then also fairly new, the last couple of months, we've had red bobbins. So how beautiful is that? In a case of, again, 25, you can get from your Janome dealer. Or then, yes, we've got the pink for the cherry blossoms. So that's wonderful. Again, a case of 25. So again, you can get all of these from your Janome dealer. But these are all the authentic Janome J bobbins that have a little J on the post. And that means the Janome J bobbins have a little bit of rubber in the bobbin itself. So then that reduces the backlashing and birds nesting when you're sewing at top speeds and all of a sudden you just stop. You want that bobbin to stop exactly where you want it to. So that little bit of rubber in the bobbin definitely helps there. It also keeps the machine a little bit quieter. So that is good to use as well. Authentic Janome J bobbins. And then, oh yes, I'm using this beautiful new Aerofill thread from Madeira. It is, again, also available from your Janome dealer. Look at all those gorgeous colors. It is a perfect all-around regular sewing, even use it for embroidery thread. It's polyester thread. It's a 40 weight, so that's like a general all-purpose thread. It's called Aerofill. So it's really good thread, again, as general all-purpose thread. So I've been using that a lot just for regular everyday sewing, but I've even been using this in my embroidery machine because it doesn't have quite the same sheen as some embroidery thread. As when we compare, oh, the yellow, can you see this is the Iris polyester embroidery thread that I usually use and still use and love, but it's got quite a high sheen to it, whereas this thread here in the Aerofill is a little more dull. So sometimes for my embroidery, yes, I want nice and you know, shiny, beautiful thread. Sometimes I want maybe a little bit more dull. So then how cool to experiment with some different types of thread for your embroidery. So the Aerofill, again from Madeira, available from your Janome dealer. Now the machine also comes, this is the foot pedal that comes with the machine, and I have it on this fabulous, so comfortable, non-slip foot pedal pad. I say that 10 times fast. And you'll see it's 10 inches by 14 inches. So even if you have our big extra wide foot pedal here, the big guy there, then again, plenty of room on this anti-slip foot pedal pad. And it's really great. You know, sometimes if your foot pedal is just migrating away from you, this is like this very cool, I am pushing on this and I'm not going to go anywhere with it. I'm holding the board down, but even there, no, I don't have I'm not holding the board at all. I'm trying to push this foot pedal because there's this grippy, rubbery surface on both sides of this foot pedal pad. So it's gripping my table surface on the bottom, but it's gripping my foot pedal as well. So that's also, again, available from your Janome dealer, this so comfortable non-slip foot pedal pad. Really helps keep that foot pedal in place. So this is the one available with your machine, but you know you can upgrade to this extra large foot pedal as well. This will fit in your Sewist 740 DC. So the foot pedal, again, available separately from your Janome dealer. Now, but something else that comes with this gorgeous machine, I hope I'm not making anyone sick going back and forth like this. But look, oh yes, when I take away the little accessory case, I can slide in, ooh, this gorgeous big extension table. So if your machine sits on top of a table, as mine has always done, I've never had a table that my machine recesses into. They're always sitting up top. So I love when our machines have these big extension tables. This one is included with the machine, but sometimes the machines have one available separately as well. So again, always check with your Janome dealer about getting you the extension table. That really helps support your work. So of the included accessories. Ooh, here we go. Again, you'll see we have a lot of standard accessories like the little brush and the seam ripper. You know, our quilting guide bar is great. This is your little screwdriver that you can remove your foot control or your foot holder, and then you'll remove your needle plate with this little screwdriver. But you know, you can get some of our regular white screwdrivers as well in a separate blister pack from your Janome dealer. So that's always handy to have. You can never have too many of those. Your spool pins, of course, little pack of needles. So that's great, Janome needles. But with your fabulous presser feet, you've got a lot with your machine, and then of course there's more, so check your Janome accessory guide, and again double check with your dealer. Now in the A to Z with Janome series that I did on Instagram last May, when we first started doing these Instagram lives on Janome HQ, I demoed the E foot as the zipper foot. Now regardless of what machine you have, your zipper foot may look a little different, but the E foot is always the zipper foot in every Janome machine, so it's really good to identify that way. So you can go back to the Janome HQ YouTube channel, for example, in the A to Z with Janome playlist and watch as I demo the E foot for zippers. The F foot is the often called the craft foot, or it's the satin stitch foot, and it is great. It has a little groove on the bottom, so that's the foot that we're going to use when we do our decorative stitches. There's room for those stitches to form. And again, our Sewist 740 tells us, like down here are some decorative stitches, and down in the corner there it says F, so we know exactly what foot to use for those stitches. Now included in the machine are the C foot, and one thing I love about Janome machines is, again, they all have these lettered feet. So there's the C foot. It's got a little brush off to the side, and a groove or a guide, a black guide, and then there's these little prongs underneath it that these mimic the stitch fingers that are on the serger. So if you don't happen to have a serger, then you can still kind of finish the raw edges off of your fabric by using this C foot. Or also included is the M foot. Now, it is very similar, but instead of the little brush, it has another wire finger, another stitch finger off to the side here. So you'll get a little bit bigger, wider stitch with this and the little groove there. Now, again, I demonstrated these feet again on the A to Z with Janome series. And then the last foot here is the G foot, which is the blind hem foot. I love this foot. It's a multi-purpose foot, which I'll show you. So these are the feet that come with your machine. And again, that additional automatic buttonhole foot there. But specifically the C and the M foot I wanted to talk about because they're basically somewhat interchangeable. And in fact, Janome even uses the term overcast and over edge interchangeably. Typically the C foot is the over edge foot and the M foot is the overcast foot, but again, even Janome interchanges those terms. So they basically do the same thing but slightly different. So in many of our Janome machines we have, you'll see a stitch that looks like this number 9, and it tells me again I should use the C foot, that this is like an over edge stitch where it's doing my seam and then it's doing like a little zigzag off the edge of the fabric. So this would be great to finish the seam allowances of your fabric. Again, if you don't have a serger, or even if you do have a serger, sometimes you don't want to haul it out and you don't want to have to get, 4 spools of matching thread. So you can do a quick, easy seam finish with this like over edge stitch. So again, if I were to do a traditional seam, 5/8 of an inch, just like that, and then I'm going to press my seam allowances open, but I want to finish this raw edge, so I can use this overcast stitch there, would be like stitch number 9, for example. And again, on your machine, it may be a different number, but a lot of machines have this stitch. So then you can overcast or an over edge stitch to the raw edge and finish it off that way. But the M foot is again slightly bigger. So the C foot will give you, using that again, stitch number 9, will give you, this is about 3/8 of an inch wide. So again, perfectly great for a seam allowance finish. This, using the M foot, this is a generous 1/4 of an inch wide seam. So this is perfect to do the row of stitching here to the left. But then it does this beautiful stitch here to help support and secure the raw edges of the fabric. And then you'll see there's a line of stitching right along the raw edge there. So that completely overcasts that seam, again, most like a serger. So it's really good to use. I will quickly change this foot, and like all or almost all Janome machines, there's a little, lever here in the back. I just depress that, and then the foot comes off, and snap it into place, and boom, away I go. So this M foot is good to use, and I'm going to use stitch number 11. And again, on your machine, it may be a different number, but that'll have the same stitch. And again, all I do is press that button there, and then there, it's telling me that stitch number 11 and the width and the length that is ideal to use. Now, you can make some adjustments, but just be very careful, particularly the width with this foot, because you don't want to hit any of these little prongs there that are there to help support the fabric edge. So this is great. I'm going to line up the raw edge of the fabric with the guide here, the black guide. I'm going to hold on to my thread tails, as I often do when I get started. And then I'm going to use the stop start button. I don't have the foot control on. So again, because my table is somewhat wonky as well, if you find another good reason, if your table really isn't very sturdy, then you can also turn down the machine, so then there isn't so much vibration, which again normally wouldn't be a problem, but I have my camera on the table too, so I don't want it to shake too much. And again, the shaking is not the machine, the shaking is my my table. I'm looking to upgrade to one of our fabulous arrow or kangaroo tables, very sturdy, again available from your Janome dealer. So now that I'm at the end of the seam, so I'm just going to hit that lock stitch, and it's going to finish it off beautifully just at the end of my seam there, and raise my presser foot. There is a side cutter off to the machine, and look how beautiful that is. So I'm seaming and I'm finishing the raw edge off at the same time. So again, how beautiful is that? You open your seam, you have no idea that looks like a normal seam as I pull it apart, but look how, sturdy that is. So even if you don't have a serger, you can still do the same kind of stitch on your machine using either the C or the M foot. So that's very beautiful there. Now this G foot, I love. This is the blind hem foot, and again, your instruction manual tells you, and I demonstrated the G foot in the A to Z with Janome series doing blind hem, but I love this foot. You'll see the little rudder down the middle there for the blind hem, but I love using this foot as an edge stitching guide as well, where I just need to move my needle over far enough over to the left to clear that little guide. So here I'm just going to go back to regular straight stitch. So in this button here, we can increase the width. Oh, I need to go the other way. We can decrease the width. So typically I go to a 1.0. The actual number isn't as important. You can vary that, but the main thing is you want to clear that little rudder that's in the middle there. So you've got to make sure that your needle is on the other side of that rudder. And I think I'm okay. Again, typically in my other machines, I do that 1.0. So, oh, let me edge stitch this little sample then, as I already did. Oh, maybe I'll edge stitch this one because it's white. It may show up a little better. So then I have my groove right down in my seam, and then I can edge stitch Now, I always like to, whenever I make adjustments to my machine, I always like to walk the balance wheel or the flywheel, you know, by hand first to make sure, yes, the needle is going to cover. Okay, no problem. And then we can always turn up the speed there. So I'm just running that little guide down the well of the seam. It's not really a stitch in the ditch foot, but it is kind of like that. It's that same kind of rudder. You know, I'm always looking for my scissor control, but this machine does not have that that function. But it does have so many others. So again, you see how perfectly that edge stitching is about 1/8 of an inch from that seam line. So that you can adjust with the width of your needle. But also with this G-foot, isn't this so cool too? There's so much you can do with this. How about some pin tucks? Now, we do have a dedicated pin tuck foot. In fact, we have a wide one and a narrow one available from your Janome dealer, and I love those feet. So ultimately, of course, I always recommend having a dedicated foot to do that. But in a pinch, you know, all we need to do is fold the fabric, and then we're going to run that. Again, I have my needle moved over, that it's 1.0, and then we're just going to run the fold of the fabric down that groove. So how cool is that? I can maybe lengthen my stitch as well to go a little bit faster, but it's really amazing what you can do. This looks nothing like a blind hem, but perfectly fine to use the foot in a different way. So how cool is that? So there is your pin tuck. And then here I created multiples just by folding the fabric over. And then I stitched in one direction, so the pin tucks are laying like to the left. And then down here I stitched to the right. So now the pin tucks are going to the right. And then back to the left and back to the right. So it produces some really cool decorative effects. This would be beautiful down like a blouse, or this could be on a pillow cover. Like, there's so much you can do. And then, of course, with all your decorative stitches, how about combining that by running down the middle between your pin tucks? These are some of the decorative stitches. And then as you're doing, you'll see, oh, my bobbin thread is showing just a little bit here. So as I do my decorative stitches in particular, you then can easily adjust. In this case, my bobbin thread showing a little bit up at the top here. So then I'm going to decrease the pressure or decrease the tension of my needle thread because it's pulling the bobbin thread too much. So I need to decrease it, so I'm going to lessen it, which means like lower numbers. So normally it's set at, you know, about a 4, 3 or a 4. So then to decrease my needle tension here, I'll put it down to like a 2, and then I'll experiment with that. It's often not a big adjustment. So here it was 4, I'll probably be okay on a 3. And then if I needed to increase the bobbin or increase the needle tension, then I would turn it up to 6, for example. So you can easily make that adjustment. Always do your little test samples, and you'll see whenever using decorative stitches, you're going to be using a stabilizer to help support those stitches. And of course, the stabilizer is coming from the Madeira Stabilizer Starter Pack, again available from your Janome dealer. 12 different stabilizers to help you get comfortable with what type to use when. There is a very handy booklet that comes with it, so it'll give you a heads up on when to use the Avalon, for example, is the water-soluble kind. So when would you use that kind? When would you use the tearaway, like the Cotton Soft? Or when would you use the iron-on, like the super strong, that would be a cutaway, and the rest of the stabilizer would stay in place. So every little scrap, I use the stabilizer for embroidery mostly, but every little scrap like this, perfect. I can use that for my rows and rows of decorative stitches. And again, great to use a sample so you really get comfortable with it all and get the best results possible. Now, also a very cool decorative element to this machine is, you'll notice these E button here. I'm just going to switch my foot to the F foot. And again, the Sewist 740, when you want a little bit of, again, some bells and whistles and a little bit of some higher end features, but you certainly don't want that higher end price tag. And you don't want, you know, to be so overwhelmed by too many electronic controls. The E button stands for elongation, and again is a feature on many Janome machines, many of the higher end machines. But how cool you have it here on this 740 machine. So your manual explains when you would use this elongation button. If I try just with my regular, you know, utility zigzag, for example, and I'm pressing that E button, you hear that little sound going like, no, that's not right. And then if I try my zigzag and then, nope, that's not going to work. And again, your manual goes over it all. If I try these satin stitches down here, for example, 17, and it's telling me my F foot is recommended, I can adjust my width and length if I wish. But then when I press E, oh, then we've got the option L1, I press it again, L2, L3, L4, L5. So that's length. So if I just press it once, and then you'll see on this sample here, again, always do your test samples, again, with that stabilizer. So this stitch here, this little satin stitch, this is what I always do whenever I'm going to experiment, is it's stitch number 16, there, and then the default is the 7 width and the 0.4 length. But then when I hit my elongation, we can do, you know, 1 longer or 2 longer or 3 longer, 4 longer, 5 longer. So here it is showing you on this side that I experimented. There's my regular stitch. But then here is elongation 1, and it's definitely longer than this sample up here. And then as I went into elongation 2, then that's longer than the one above. And 3, that's longer than the one above. And 4, even longer still. And 5, that's really long. So to compare, you know, 5 all the way up to 1, it's the same stitch, but it's elongated, so you can get some really cool different effects using that elongation feature. Now, again, you can still adjust the width and the length. In this case, I left it on a 7.0 width, but then I adjusted the length. So here is 0.8, that's a longer length. And then I shortened it to 0.2. So look at how little that is. This one is on no elongation, though. This 0.2 is no elongation. But so you can adjust that way as well, just by adjusting the length and width of your stitch and how different it can look. So on this, I'll continue. Oh, good. My whole piece is stabilized here. So yes, let's use this stitch number 17 there. And whenever you start adjusting, I like, you know, back to 16 here. If I'm playing around with the width and length, and then it's like, oh, I don't remember what the default is. You just select it again, and it goes right back to the default. So you don't have to write anything down. So that's great. So here's stitch number 17. I am going to leave my width and length, but then now I'm going to start playing with the elongation. So then I'm going to lower my foot here, and away we go. And the main thing is, again, especially with these decorative stitches and these elongation stitches, you're going to let the machine do the work. You're not going to be tugging your fabric or forcing your fabric through. Let the machine do the stitching. And in fact, both hands are free. Look, no hands. And how beautiful that is stitching. So I'm going to stop that and then go into elongation. And now I want to do, oh, let's really ramp it up in elongation 4. And then away I go. And again, this feature is on a number of our higher end machines, but how great that you have it on this Sewist 740. So it's really like that great middle of the road machine. You know, it's not quite entry level. You definitely have more sophistication and more selections, more control with the adjustments of the machine. I notice, again, my bobbin thread is pulling up just a little bit, so I'm going to try reducing my tension. Now I've gone to a 3. And this is why, again, you're going to be doing your testing to see what works best, and then write yourself little notes. And then these samples I keep in page protectors in a binder, so then that way I always have them as reference. So how simple is that? There is so much fun. Again, oh, I wish I had more time. I could just sit here and play all day. So then, yes, side cutter there. And then, yes, you can see this was at number 4. So I see a little bit of my bobbin thread, but then when I adjusted to 3, I don't see any more of that bobbin thread. You can adjust your stitch length. Again, if you wanted this to be a tighter satin stitch, you can adjust your length that way. And you see, when I make these adjustments, I really like to use a different color bobbin thread than the needle thread, so then you can really see the differences. And then when your bobbin thread, yes, if it's pulling up to the front, then you see, oh yes, I need to make some adjustments. So that's good, again, to make the adjustments. And then after, if I was going to see the backside, then yes, I would use a matching thread. But most of the time I don't. If I'm not going to see the backside, it really doesn't matter what thread I use in the bobbin. In fact, most of the time I use our Janome pre-wound. They come in white or they come in black. And again, 12 bobbins that are on the Janome J bobbin, so you have a reusable bobbin afterward. So how cool is that? So again, there's so much to this machine. There's so many fun things that you can do, but that is in a nutshell, and I don't want to get booted off Instagram like happened a few weeks ago. So again, there is so much you can do with this fabulous Sewist 740, available from your Janome dealer, so double check with them, and double check the Janome accessory guide on some of the fun, fabulous accessories you can get as a complement to this machine. So there we go. That's your beautiful 740 Sewist machine in a nutshell. Thank you so much for joining me. It's wonderful to see you all again. I hope to see you all next week for another Janome's Magical Machine Mystery Tour. And what will it be? Oh, I don't know. It's a mystery. You'll have to tune in to find out. So thank you so much for joining me, everyone, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye.